Welcome, everybody, to Breaking the Silence. You have a voice. I am your host, Lady V. We have your host, Dr. Yvonne Bennett. How are you today?
I'm doing well, doing well. Back off the road safe from Virginia, celebrating our 58th anniversary.
Oh, well, happy anniversary. That is awesome. Yes. And we had the opportunity to share some of that with you. That was fun.
Yes, it was
We had a
amazing.
really great time.
Yeah,
How you
went to
doing,
a, to
Pastor?
a bull ride, to a bull ride.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we had a good time. It was fun. How you doing, Pastor AT?
I'm doing well. Just trying to balance everything. Things picked up in my life, and so I'm just asking God for strength, guidance, and rest when I can. But I'm glad to be here today and see you guys face again and be back on the show.
Good. And last but not least, Dr. Isaac, how you doing?
Hey, I'm
What's
doing
going
great.
on, sir?
Great. Doing great. Big things popping. Other than that, I'm just trying to enjoy this space that God has put me in.
I know you enjoy this weather. You ride your bike.
No, believe it or not, I still haven't ridden my bike since November. Um, and it's only because the fact that I'm in a space. Why is this phone ringing? I'm in a space right now that God has me in. So I got to stay there.
Okay.
So let me turn this phone off.
All right. Well, we have a really hot topic for you tonight. I hope all of our viewers are going to comment because this is really, really something that we deal with every single day. But we're going to talk about black on black crime. Um, you know, years ago, we had a situation with Rodney King, and he made a statement. He said, "Can't we all just get along?" And that kind of stuck with me because throughout the years, it always seems like, and this is the picture that has been painted, that of all the cultures, we have the hardest in getting along. Now, some crime is not, and maybe I thought about it and I said, maybe it's not so much crime, but it's also just us not being able to get along, violence, hating each other. And I want to put it out there. What's the problem? What's the issue? Why are we so aggressive towards each other?
All right. Well, let me jump in since I didn't speak last week at all. So so there's a couple of different reasons, right? A couple of different things, and I was thinking about this. One is when you look at how things were set up as far as uh, the poverty and the lack of education. You'll
Hmm.
find out that in places where they did not have enough education, a lot of times they had a lot of poverty. And when you have a lot of poverty, that produces crime because everybody's trying to get what they can where they can. Then it's also that we're dealing with the mentality that was given by the slave owners years ago that kept us from getting ahead because we always kind of that crab mentality wanted to pull the other person back, and we were never happy for the other person. But ultimately, nowadays you got to be careful when they say 90% of murders, African American murders, are committed by Black people.
Hmm.
You got to be careful about that because the truth is 82% of white Americans who are murdered are killed by white Americans.
I'll care about white
So we have to
Americans,
be careful about that mentality that's being put out over the media. And over the last 2 years, I've heard it plenty of times. Hey, you need to take care of your own people. You need to take care of your own uh, group before you start asking us to take care of the cops and all that. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can take care of your community, which was not necessarily our fault to begin with, but we can work on our community. But please note that there are some issues in your own community, and let's not let the media or different things kind of push this agenda that we're always out there just killing each other. Yeah, we are killing each other, but there's other stuff that's going on at play there as well.
Well, is it that we're always killing each other, or is it more of us just not being able to work together? Is it more of um us not wanting the other person to get ahead. Like, what do you think the main issue is?
Well,
Because we
I
see it. It's there in the schools, it's there on the jobs, it's there in the communities. So I get where it's come from to a certain degree, but why can't we talked about
okay.
bridging the gap? Why can't we pull it together?
Well, let's first look at this. You have to first look at what what is being what is being put out there, what is being portrayed. Number one, it is always being portrayed that we are doing something that's worse than anything else that anybody else are doing. Why is black crime highlighted the way that it is? Because the fact that that's a narrative that has been driven, and it will continue to be driven until we decide to change that narrative. And that narrative is just like Pastor At said, is that 82% of white crime is committed by other white um, people. The difference is it's not televised the way that black crime is. Now, the one thing that is televised about white crime is mass murder, and also white collar crimes are always televised. So until we change the narrative of the level of anger that we have towards each other, then that's when the narrative would change. And yes, Vaughn, I definitely agree with you. Sometimes it is the crab in the barrel mentality, and and that's something that we have to get beyond. I think that we really have to get back to supporting one another, to actually change this narrative too. And I do think that poverty, the 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 lack of income, the lack of education has a lot to do with it, and also the unwillingness to look beyond your environment. And I do believe that an environment change also makes a complete difference as well.
Yes, that's true.
I think that environment change is one thing, but also last week we talked about bridging the gap, and we talked about the difference in generations
Mhm.
and respect. And I think that a lot of it has to do with respect as well. You know, when I can't respect myself, then I can't respect you. And when I've developed a mindset that this is just the way I am, this is the way
Mhm.
my mother was, the way my grandmama was, so this is the way I am. Uh, they told the people off. I'm gonna tell the people off, and my kids is gonna be the same way. And we lash out, we fight. And when you think about it, we talked about that learned behavior. A lot of it, I believe, is just learned behavior. We haven't been conditioned within ourselves that when situations happen, how do I really want to handle this? Do I want to confront it? Do I want to just step back for a minute and not say anything? Do I want to cuss them out? Do I want to hit you? How do I want to handle the situation? Because when we look at um, a lot of the things that happened last year, with the police brutality, we had choices. We had
Mhm.
choices on how we handled it. Now, did it make us angry? Yeah, a lot of us was angry, and especially the George Floyd situation. But I have a choice in how I choose to deal with the anger. How do I deal with that? Because if I deal with it in violence, then I'm no different than the other person. But when I choose to deal with it intelligently, then that's where things look a little different.
Yeah, I
Well,
think.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
go ahead. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
I think too. I think one of the main problems is um, a lot of blacks don't have the confidence in black people. We've
Mm.
been stigmatized for so long that we don't use the best products, because we're handicapped as far as our finances is concerned, our income is concerned. But what people don't realize, black people there's a lot of people that have excellent jobs now. So we need to come out of that stigmatized mindset that Black people
Mhm.
can't produce as well as any other group. I mean, there's some people that'll go all the way across town to purchase something, and it's right there in their own neighborhood. But that mentality, oh, theirs is not as good because they don't know as much. It's that mentality that has locked us down for so long that we don't know as much. But that is so far from the truth. And in fact, a lot of things that white people have progressed in, made progress in, and have been elevated in is because of Black people. They may own the company, but we brought them up.
Well, I
That is
think
true.
that. Do you think that we have been conditioned? People have conditioned themselves to believe that we are violent people. I
Yes,
think that is the problem.
yes,
I
because you got to remember that was a narrative that was driven when you go back into the 40s, 50s, 60s, and in the 70s. And shucks, let's be honest, that same narrative is being taught today too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because why is it that you can walk inside of a store
Mhm.
and then you walk by a white woman and that white woman clenches her purse?
Yeah.
As in, like, that actually happened to me, and I actually stood by her and laughed. I said, "Ma'am," I said, "for you to do that and not even know who I am, that means that you've been taught something about the black race that is
Mhm.
incorrect." I said, "I am no different than anybody that's of your color. I'm no different. Either this, I can be a respectable man or I can be a disrespectable man." I said either or. I said that can happen from any race, not just from the actual black race. I said, so what you should have done is just maintain your level of stride when we pass by each other. I said, because what you don't know about me is that I have more to lose than you do.
Yeah, definitely.
that's true.
Definitely.
Definitely, that's real. That's real. And I think that the thing is, a lot of times, um, they based who we are
Mhm.
on where we come from, especially with slavery. They're like, well, these are violent people. We, and they put us all in one big bunch.
Yeah, I was
They
going to
don't realize that. I don't think Black people are violent more so than they can be angry. They can get a little frustrated, and not only frustrated with other nationalities, but we get frustrated with each other because we're not patient enough to deal with each other.
That's true.
We're not patient. So when you look at um you know, your haters. Why can't I would rather break into your house, Isaac, than to rejoice that you have a house and you have things and you have nice things. I would rather break into the house to
Mhm.
take what I want instead
Mhm.
of finding out what did you do to get where you got. And that's the problem. We don't want to help each other get to the next level. If I got it, then why can't I help somebody else get it?
Or
But see,
vice
but that's somewhat human nature among all races. That if you can get it of an easier fashion, go ahead and get it. There's plenty of people from all races. Think about
versa.
our Native Americans. What they had. If you can get it at an easier
Mhm.
pace and take what you can without having to necessarily work for it, that essentially is the American way. So unfortunately, even if it is in a negative fashion for African Americans, they're really just trying to take what they can while they can, because sometimes it's just a matter of survival. They're just trying to survive and make eat they get their family to be able to have food on their table and stuff like that. The issue that I see is the narrative that when it is during the summer of 2020, it was a whole bunch of riots and different things. They would call it riots. But then on January 6th, I think it's 5th or 6th or whatever that day was, 2021, it was just protesting. And they went into the national capital and committed treason. But the agenda in the way it is presented is completely different.
Yes.
The
Different.
They
moment
don't
Yeah.
wanna call it, certain certain people don't want to call it what it is. It was an insurrection. Let's call it exactly.
It's exactly what it is. It's an attempted coup. But
Yes.
when that stuff was happening in DC, and they said that people who were protesting on federal property were going to pretty much throw the book at them, and you see these guys getting off and getting special treatment and meals and stuff like that. Okay, at that point, you start to understand that it's really an agenda of how it's been presented and how it's always been presented to make one race look worse than the other.
Mm-hmm.
It is known that we are more passionate people, right?
Yeah.
And anything that happens with passion, passion can turn to anger or frustration very quickly.
That's true.
But when it's our singing and our dancing, you don't have an issue with our passion, right? When it's me catching that touchdown or hitting that 3-pointer, you don't have an issue with my passion. Okay, if it's you eating my soul food cooking. Now there's a place in the city right now that when I come over there at 12 o'clock, 12:30, they ain't people who look like me, but the owner is a black person, right? They go there for that cooking, but they may not go there to support that particular person or on other agendas. So it is known that we have the seasoning. God made us passionate, and so we can't necessarily take that away. The problem is how we use those things, and as a people, ultimately, to me, it's about having self-confidence in yourself. We do not realize who we are, and so therefore we will go ahead and risk life imprisonment, kill somebody from stealing those things, instead of, like you said, trying to find a better way for our life, because we don't really, that's all we know. This is the life that, as Isaac was saying, in the environment, this is the environment that I've been bred in, kill or be killed, dog eat dog world type of thing.
Well, I think that too, when you talk about, now what I find amazing, it goes back to the critical race theory.
Mm-hmm.
You have people who are afraid of us because they say that we're violent. But look at all of the violent things that took place over 200 years to us, but they are afraid of us.
But do you know that some whites don't want to acknowledge the Tulsa massacre? Some whites don't want to acknowledge the level of massacre that happened in Mississippi. And we talking about when complete communities were completely wiped out.
Isaac, check this out. Wait, here's another piece to add to that. I was listening to one lady, and it was on TikTok, and she was giving the history, how I believe it was around 18 around the teens or whatever, that in the United States that they had outlawed bringing in new slaves. They said you can keep the slaves you already have, but you can't bring any new slaves. Well, the last slave ship came over in 1860. So that's roughly 50 years where these guys were still sneaking people on. They said what happened was, as they got, when the U.S. Army or the Navy would go out there, Coast Guard would go out there, and they would see these slave ships come up there. Instead of being arrested, they would burn those ships to the ground, and all those people would die. Right? These are the type of things that we don't want to talk about, but this is our history. How you still continue to do this, and you're like you said, if you go point for point, your history and the things that you've done, and I haven't gone deeper. There's even talk of cannibalism and certain things when it comes during slavery and all that. Come on now, and you want to call us the heathens and the rebels and the monkeys and all that kind of stuff? It's like, come on now, be careful about what you say, because you hide your history very well, but there's a lot of dirt there, and some of that dirt is being uncovered.
But I think that also, AT, when you talk about the violence that takes place today, it's so it'll be the news for about 5 minutes, but then it goes away. You look at the stuff that happened at the Capitol building. It was like, now you see it, now you know.
So no, that was on for a minute.
What happened to those people who did all of that? Was that an act of violence? To them, that was an act of justice. Now, if you had flipped it and that had been us, how would that story have gone?
Well, we saw it in 2020, in the summer of 2020. Yeah, in the summer of 2020, those people were protesting for justice and equality. And that was turned around as they being rebels, and they saying you don't need to protest like that. When Colin Kaepernick was on his knees, silent protest, you had an issue with how he protested silently. And then nothing changed, so therefore they made some noise. And the moment they started bringing down your racist 1910 and 1920 statues, you said you can't deface our property, not realizing how those statues came to be is because of racism.
Yeah, I think too. In fact, my husband and I were having this conversation just a few days ago. If with this whole insurrection thing, if Trump had been a black man, this would have been solved already.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But my husband watches the news every day, and it seems like the time is stretching further out instead of closing in. But if it had been a black man, but we have to look at ourselves and make sure that we see the value in ourselves, so that we can see the value in our brothers and sisters, because that to me is very important. Instead of putting each other down, it's in the church, it's in the school, it's everywhere. So I think that the thing that we have to do, and yes, it is true, like Lady D said, we do have some anger, but a lot of this, like we said, is learned behavior. We need to get over for real over a lot of stuff, because there's nothing that we can do about what has already happened. But we can do something about what's happening right now, because they need to see the quality in us. They really do. And I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed that there are some white people that have more confidence in black people than black people have in black people. I'm starting to see a lot of that.
Well, I think that the main thing is, when you look at us, it's the fear of somebody doing better. And it starts with the home. It starts with the husband, the wife, the mother, the father. When children see, parents tearing each other down, and they see, us calling each other out the name, and not building the black man up, building the black woman up, and saying good things, whether you made it in a relationship or not. It shouldn't reflect on the fact that you saw something good in that person. And when you can devalue your brothers and sisters just that easily, then you devaluing yourself. And that's what people don't realize. It starts with yourself. If I can sit back and I can talk about my sisters and think nothing of it, and oh, they're this and oh, they're that, and I don't have a problem with hating on my brothers, and I'm dogging out my black brothers, then that's a reflection of who I am. That's a self issue. And that's what people don't realize. We how we, to the level that we love ourselves, is how we're going to love other people. So if you don't love yourself, you're going to treat everybody else bad. And that's just the way it is. You trying to get somebody to treat you right, and they don't treat themselves right. They wishy-washy, and they got an attitude all the time. That's how they're going to treat you. So you get what you get.
Yeah, because if you don't see the good in yourself, you're not going to see the good in anybody else.
Yeah, that's true.
And part of that is just a lot of pain. And so when I'm doing this study, and it says that most of our behaviors is from when our childhood is pre-programmed, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to change that, because if all you hear is fussing and cussing, you ain't no good, you're just like your daddy, you're just like your mama, that is what they know, and that is their programming as they get older. And then when they get into the world, because other people around them have the same type programming, all it is negativity. It is hard to be a flower on concrete. You need to be in good ground and good soil, and around and where you can, receive some light. The problem is the environment that we have is not conducive to growth, and inner cities and different things like that. It's not conducive to growth. And it's very hard. And you have to be a really strong individual to break against the norm, because most people fall into line, because it's easier to fall in line than it is to break out from that shell and say, I'm going to do something different. It's
Mhm.
easier to just fall in. And that's the reason why, going back to the subject, that's the reason why sometimes you just have black on black crime, because you abuse other, hurting people hurt others. And so they're
Yeah.
going to abuse others who are close to them. They're not going to talk to them right. And the moment that joker or that woman get tired of what they're hearing, they're going to shoot, they're going to stab, and there you go. The moment we interact with each other, we don't know them, we don't communicate with them, not realizing how close really related to them that we are, because we're in the same ethnicity group, will abuse that, and that would cause more pain. And then, like, even in this city, well, in the neighboring city, Columbus, they said since the beginning of the month there have been 12 killings, because probably a gang violent retaliation. They going back and forth. When is it end? When all of them die, or all of them get the clue?
Yeah, you can't put everybody in one basket.
That's true.
You just can't. You can't. If you've had an experience with a black brother, all black brothers are not the same. I mean, you just can't put everybody in a basket and say they're no good. You can't. And most of all, we're going to have to find a way to. I do a get help thing the first or second Saturday of every month on Zoom. And my subject, the Lord just gives me one subject and then I build upon that. And this week I'm doing how can I forgive what I can't forget? Because a lot of people cannot forget what they've been through and what was done to them, and they hold on to that thing so tight. You got to let some things go so some new things can come in. Like Pastor A.T. said about the flower growing, on concrete. You got to get those roots deep in the ground so that you can see some flourishing attitudes flourishing, personalities flourishing, learned behavior flourishing, because we've got some good people in our race. I mean, I'm looking at 4 of them right on this screen. Good people. Intelligent people.
The thing is, I think, Dr. Bennett, when you look at our go back to black on black crime, we're conditioned differently. This is a generation, and I can't even say this generation, because it's in our generation too. It's been for many years how we see each other, how man sees woman sees man. Over the years, the picture has been painted. Think about it. When I was growing up, okay, now I grew up with Ricky, Lucy. I grew up with
George and Wheezy
family. And even though she was a single mom, she was a good single mom. Then we had the Brady Bunch. The Mike and Carol, they could do no wrong, and they had perfect 6 children and with a blended family. Then you had, Fathers Knows Best, and you had all the shows.
Little House on the Prairie.
Shown. But then when we showed us, the message was always, you had little Penny, who mama was beating on her. You never see that on the White Show. You had JJ always dynamite, and he trying to struggle, and that family always struggling, and they trying to get $1. Then you had the Jeffersons, they moved up, but the white people didn't like them. So all of the messages that was painted, and even with us, was always negative. We never had a good light on in the media. We just never did.
Until the Cosby's came around.
Then the Cosby's came. Now, good. The Cosby came,
but
everybody thought that was such a fake show. They did. That was like black people that live like that.
That is true. That is true.
They really
got 2 doctors and all that.
Came up with some stuff, and black people really don't live like that, because black people are always fighting and cussing and fussing. So the Cosbys came along and changed the image.
That's right.
For a minute. But when you really think about it, when we was growing up, we was always shown a negative image of who we are.
That is true.
In reality, when we listen to the music, when we look at when we look at TV, we got to change that. We got to show that Black women and black men, there are some people that hug and love and love their children, and we are a family, whether you're single, whether you're married, we are together. That image has to change because the image goes deep, way back from slavery all the way to now. That message has always been there, and we can change that message, we can change that vision of how they see us, because how we see each other, because it's been that way all these years.
Question: how many of you guys have been to an opera?
I have.
I have.
I wanted to, still want to.
I have.
Exactly. So when you guys went, how many of our faces did you see?
Me,
About 3.
I saw the person that I was with it myself.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. Any of you guys ever been to a hockey game?
I have.
Yeah,
I think
Okay.
one, yeah.
When you went, how many of our faces
not many.
did you
Me
see?
and my 2 children.
Okay. Any of you guys ever been to a tennis match?
A what?
A tennis
No.
match?
Mhm.
No.
Okay. How many of our faces did you see?
Few.
Not
Okay.
many.
Now, golf. Any of you guys ever been to a golf tournament?
Yeah,
Okay. How many of our faces did you see?
not many.
Exactly. Because there are areas that we as black have been taught that that's just a white culture.
Yeah.
It's not. Opera is about music, drama, and the talent of that. Now, when black faces started to appear on stage, white folks had an issue with that. Why? Because that was their arena. When
Mhm.
the first black hockey player that entered hockey, he was discriminated on it so bad, horribly. When the first black entered NASCAR, he was discriminated of. And matter of fact, it was purposely that they were trying to run him off the road just to keep him from winning. Um,
Mhm.
even when you go to tennis, every sport where it was a predominant white sport, every time somebody black entered, it was the level of discrimination and level of racism
True.
given until those barriers were continually broken.
Mhm.
But I look at golf. Tiger Woods changed the entire culture of golf. Why? Because of his strength and how far he could drive the ball. Prior to him coming in, no one was driving a ball as far as he was. And
That's
and
true.
because of him, it caused golfers to become better, and it caused them to say, hold on. This guy is driving a ball 100 yards further than we ever have I driven. So
I want to read a comment. Devola said African American people are the only group of people ripped from their culture and not taught or educated in ways of their culture. We were taught to convert the Western white way of life. And that is
that's
so
true.
true. That is so true. See, what you don't know, you cannot really embrace.
Yes.
And that is a true statement. We've embraced what we were taught. We embrace anger, violence, and all of the other things. That's what we were taught. We
That's what
don't
we're talking. Right.
really know what our culture has really been, and how our culture is, because we weren't taught it. So
Mhm.
if all you were taught is, again, go back to, that's how my mama did it, that's how my grandmama did it, so that's how I'm gonna do it, then there's a never ending cycle, because we're gonna go with what we were taught.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And also that's why that the movement, um I can't remember where I saw it at or where I read it at, and it was speaking about how that we as blacks born and raised in America, how that we need to be reconnected to what our true roots are, which go back and which goes back to Africa, is that in everybody black in the United States of America should make the effort to return back to Africa, so that we have an understanding of where we came from, and also to reconnect to our heritage. Um,
But see,
because
well,
even still on the African side, coming back to us, they in certain ways they can't stand us. They don't stand us because they feel that we left them.
Right.
They
Yeah.
shipped us off. That's what
Yeah,
it was.
exactly.
The, the, pe-
We
hey,
were
the people,
we were
the people
stolen
who
and
made it,
sold by our own
yeah,
people.
the people who made it to the America is the one who lost the war. The
Yep.
ones who lost their soul. So
Yep.
we are descended from those who had lost. Y'all shipped us off. But the thing about that is, and even with that, it's very difficult because when we say Africa, Africa is a big place
Yeah.
with multi different nations in there, a whole bunch of different cultures. So it that feat to me, Isaac, other than the fact of going back to see the motherland, the continent itself, I don't see how we can accurately connect with our culture because really we don't know which culture that we came from.
We don't.
We're a mixture of a whole
Right.
bunch of different cultures.
True that.
If you do the DNA results and all that kind of stuff, you may have a couple of different nations in there. So how do you know which culture that you really can gravitate to? So really, I think really it's just, to me, I think going to see any type of culture would be good, but being able to connect with it in the way that say other ethnicities do, I think it's impossible because of the one that you know
True.
you can't. Okay, you can pick one, and you be
Yeah.
inaccurate. Everybody's culture is different.
But you can't
That's
pick one because
that's
some came from Nigeria, some came from the Congo,
exactly
some
that's
so some
to me. You
some
discredit
came
the
from
other
Ethiopia.
cultures.
Exactly.
I would say do a DNA test and figure out which one you have the most of, and start there. How about
And then even that's hard. And even that's hard. What's that? Is that Devola? I can definitely agree with you.
I definitely agree with
The
that because
the
I think that black, when she says black on black, is deeply rooted in the slave owner agenda. And
true.
that's exactly what we've been shown. When we were growing up, even you look at, and I know that mom remembers this, you know, when we would watch the Shirley Temple movies, when you showed, when they had black people were always mammies. They were always slaves. They were housekeepers.
They were
They
always
were
servants.
never people that had good jobs, that walked around every day, that managed their business or whatever. Like I said, the picture that was painted when we were growing up, it was totally unaccepted. And now we can, now today, all we did was change the verbiage. See, when we stop listening to the stuff that we entertain, when we are no longer okay with women being called blank, 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 and y'all can fill in the blank, when we're no longer okay with men being called blank, 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 and we listen to the music, we hear it, but we control it. When we are no longer okay with that, then that's when things are going to change. But every time we turn on the radio, we okay with whoever we've been called. So it's still that slave mentality.
Yeah, I think it starts in us as individuals because you can't change people, but you can change yourself.
Mhm.
Right.
You can change your mindset, but it has to start somewhere. And we just have to, make sure that they put the right principles in their children because this generation that's coming up right now,
Mhm.
it's a whole
It's
nother
serious.
generation.
It's
They
a whole nother
think
generation.
differently. They act differently. They react differently. We have to try to keep them on point. So we have to put the right things in them so that they can help us get this thing turned around. But the most important thing is to see what's inside yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What can I do? What can I do to make things better?
Yeah, I was on social media the other day, and I read this meme that said, "When was it?" Said we as adults, when was the last time that we were in a fight, right? And this guy said, "Sad but true. At the age of 57, I was in a fist fight."
Wow.
And everybody in the group was like, "Are you serious?" He was like, "Yes. At the age of 57, I was in a fist fight." And in my mindset, it was like, what were you thinking, or what was the environment that you could not walk away from at your age that caused you to be in a fist fight? Um, and I didn't go into detail. Like I did not ask the guy, yo,
Mhm.
I just got to know at the age of 57, why you fight? So, uh, because I think of me because of being 50 and and plus, why would I be fighting at my age? Why? Why is
Mhm.
there a need to fight? You can call me a coward for walking away. You can do all that. But I also think at my age, there's a level of de-escalation that I should know how to do.
And then
And
also just to avoid certain situations before they
and to
even get
avoid
there.
certain situations.
Yeah, you
Uh
kind of see where things are going and just kind of drop out, you know.
exactly, exactly. And then is it true? You know, and then also think at my age too. I'm at the age where I dial, where I call. Let's make a phone call, bro. Look, look. I got too much to lose this year and fight you.
Exactly.
But it
Well, I
goes back
think that
to,
your silence is golden.
black on black crime. You know, at what point do we say stop? At what point st- street credit doesn't mean crap because it's only for the street.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
It's only
but
for the
see,
street.
when you are silent, when you don't say anything,
Hmm.
it's more powerful. Your unspoken words sometimes is more powerful than your spoken words. And a
Correct.
lot of
True.
times people think about that and they think that it is weak. You're being weak because you don't say anything, because you don't defend yourself. But sometimes you don't have to defend yourself.
Hmm.
Sometimes you need to be silent to give the other person a chance to think about their ways and why they do what they do. Because one thing about it, a person cannot argue by themselves.
Can't argue about
So
themselves.
if I walk away, then you look crazy because I'm not going to argue with you, nor am I going to fight you. And you're right. What is the fight about?
Hmm.
Why am I fighting with you anyway? I'm too old to fight. I'm too old to argue. I don't have to argue. I can say nothing, or if I can't use my words wisely, then I'd rather not say anything at all. And a lot of times that eats away at people more than you arguing, cussing, and fussing back at them because now you're on them. They done brought you to their level because that's the only thing they understand is aggression. They only understand, the start calling you names and cussing and all that. They don't know calm conversation. You can tell me that you don't like something without going off on me. You can tell me that you don't whatever. You can tell me I stink, whatever. But
Hmm.
you don't have to smack me, go off of me to tell me that. And a lot
Hmm.
of times when you're silent, that shows the other person how immature they really are.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had an incident recently, and I'll just tell the story while we have a little bit of time. Hey, so I'm going to Bishop's house, and I'm in my wife's car, and so I'm driving that one, and I'm going through the neighborhood. I see this man in the middle of the street by his truck, and he's in the middle of the street. So I'm trying to avoid him. I'm coming through. Now, I didn't think I was going too fast or whatever. I go up there, and the children that he was looking at after were over next to Bishop's house. It's for sale. They were just up there playing or whatever. I get out the car. I go up there to the door, and I hear somebody yelling. I'm thinking he's yelling at the children, right?
Mm.
And he says something, but he says something about I hear him say something about slowing down. So I think he's talking about slowing down for the kids to come back and they have bikes. And so I didn't turn around. I'm opening the door because I got a key. And then he says something to the nature of, all right, I'm gonna shoot an MFer or whatever. But he says it loud. Now he's a deal off. And I said, this dude talking to me, right? Talking about shooting me. I go in there, I deal with Bishop, I get my son, we head on the road. And on our way out, I look in the rearview mirror because I ignored him twice. I see him get in his truck and he's speeding to catch up with me. Now he just talked about me speeding, and now he's speeding to try to catch up with me, right? And so we get to the point where he catches up to me at the stop sign, and I still don't quite know if he's going someplace or whatever, but I do realize he left off fast. As I'm making a left, he's making a right, and I see his head out the window, probably got the middle finger up, and he's sitting there cussing and going through changes, right?
Mm.
And then I think about it. I said, Lord, this dude threatened me with violence, threatened to shoot me. I'm in my wife's car. I said, I can't let this go because she may be riding this vehicle. And so I talked to Bishop. I had talked to my sister initially, and she said, I talked to Bishop. He says, before we can get to the story, he says, nope, go ahead and call the police. Let him know he threatened you. Let him go through that. So none of that had to be done. right? It's because it's too, like you were saying, he got more upset for the fact that I wasn't going back and forth with him. And I know he had to be in his late 50s. His kid's probably like 12, 13 years old. But yet he wanted to resort to violence. But then he does the thing that he accuses me of worse than I guess I was even doing, because he caught up to me so fast. And so when we look at it here is, there's some people who don't have their stuff together, but just because they're going through issues don't mean they have to be your issues.
That's right.
I didn't have to engage with him. I knew who the authority was. Had I been in my truck or whatever, I wouldn't even have bothered to mess with him. But because I was in my wife's car, I didn't want her to go through those issues. You know what I'm saying? But these are the things that we have to deal with even at this age, because people don't know how to have maturity, don't know how to shut their mouth, don't know how to say things quietly. They want that interaction. Some people like that heat. They like to be seen and make fuss and arguments.
And I like something that Devola said. She spoke of, as a dark-skinned girl in the South, she was called every day, but she was taught education, and that's what she focused on. But she said Mickey Leland and Barbara Jordan was the most important people in her life. But then you have to worry about people saying that you act white, and I can say that I identify with that. Because throughout my life, I have been more criticized for not being ghetto and not being, they say I'm not a real sister. You don't talk like it, because I don't yell, scream, and act crazy. Our people can be really, really hard on us. I remember sometimes somebody told me, they said, "Oh, you just acting like a white girl." I'm like, okay, but I didn't grow up that way. I didn't grow up. I grew up in a Black home, but I had white friends. I was introduced to so much diversity. So even, my husband laughs at me, because when we go shoot pool, you already know the music I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play some rock and roll. I'm gonna play some country music, and I'm gonna play some R&B. That's the extent of what I'm gonna play on the jukebox. And he'll laugh, because he's like, "Baby, you so diverse," But that's who I am, and I should be able.
That's right.
To use my right words. I should be able to say the thing. I don't have to go all out of my face to prove to people that I'm a sister. I'm a sister because I'm a sister. But why do I have to be loud and act crazy to show you that I'm really a sister? And that's really sad, because a lot of times your own people put you down. They're like, "Oh, you're bougie, you're this, you're that." Why? Because I use my please and my thank yous, and I don't roll my eyes and roll my head, and I choose to say things the right. And a lot of times we have been backed up against the wall because we choose not to be that way. I don't want to be that way.
Yes.
But once again, it's not what people call you, it's what you answer to.
It's what you answer. That's right.
You just have to know who you are and stand up for who you are, and hopefully the others will see what they need to see in your life. That's how I try to live my life. I want others to see that there is a more excellent way. Period.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Talk the way you speak, because I've always been accused of that, but I went to an all-white school, but I wasn't trying to. I don't know what that means. Act white. How does white act?
I just know how to act educated.
Yeah,
that's how I know how to act. But it's amazing. Look, because of my profession, I don't know Ebonics at all. I do not know Ebonics. I have been sent text messages by some people, and I'm like, "Excuse me, can you please decipher the text message for me, because I don't understand anything that you're saying."
You're saying.
And it's not that it's not that I'm not Black. No, my profession requires for me to be to have a level of education, a level of decorum about myself, and
Professionalism.
And exactly, and it's that professionalism. I've never allowed the way that I speak, especially when I'm in my professional setting, because that voice completely changed. We all have a professional voice, and we all got that everyday voice. But when I'm in that setting, my, I can use certain words. I can use another level of our grammar, another level of my vocabulary. But and guess what? I'm never looked at in that in that area as being, he just trying to act like that he better than us. But when we get amongst ourselves, or we get amongst our everyday friends, and they forget that that you operate in this environment every single day, and that you're talking, and how I talk at work is usually how I talk when I'm not at work in my everyday life. And I never forget the day that I used a word, and everybody was like, "Where that word came from?" I'm like, and I said, "Oh, I forgot. I'm not at work right now."
Mhm.
so but there's an expansion of vocabulary, and when you learn how to use your vocabulary correctly,
Mhm.
you know uh,
Yeah.
that the words that you say are more powerful than the actions that you can ever take.
That's
Oh
right.
It's
yeah,
like this. It's like
definitely.
elevate. It's like you challenge people to elevate their understanding. All right,
Hmm.
look it up. We got Google for a reason.
Hmm.
Right.
So I'll say some stuff, and then people in my life be like, "Well, what does that word mean?" I rather them have to say that than for them to be like, you
Exactly.
bougie or you think you know it all. No,
Agreed.
I use these words all the time, not just trying to sound educated and all that kind of stuff. And because certain words have meaning. I mean, I'm not a toddler. You should have be able to have communication and growth and be able to articulate what you trying to say. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of people don't. They're not used to that, and so they stay at that level. And if you bring something new, because humans like staying in their box where they are, and when you come in and you bring something new to their table, that's growth. And everybody don't really want growth in their life. They want to stay where they are.
Hmm.
But
That is
it's
so
important.
true.
It's so important to grow up. Just grow up, and grow out of some things, so we can move forward. Yeah, life is too short. Life is too short. We can't stay in stuck mode. Got to move forward,
Amen.
and let's be who we are. Be the
Yeah.
real you, and let the real you come forth.
And then also we got to realize that we are each other's worst critic. We are so each
Yes,
other's best
yes,
critic,
we are.
and we are each other's greatest cheerleader. We have to stop,
Yes,
thinking of the crab in a barrel mentality. We have to continue to think with that. How can I help the next person get to where I am?
mhm,
And
Amen.
the moment that those mindsets change, it's the moment that we start creating a better environment, a better race too.
yeah.
I
I like
think
Amen.
that. I like that, Dr. Isaac. That is so true. We should be each other's best cheerleader. We should be the best. We should be cheering our people on, no matter
Yep.
what it is.
Mhm.
I mean, but what's wrong with sending a text saying, you did a great job.
Mhm.
I was really moved by that. It's
Mhm.
okay. It really is okay. But there's some people that are afraid to give you accolades. There are some people that will not show appreciation or encourage you. We should be on it. I mean, let's face it. We're here. Our color's not going to change. It's not going to change. We are who we are, but we should be the best of who we are.
Mhm.
that is true. And I think that a lot of times we feel intimidated when people criticize us for being who we are. We back down and we tend to, change our way because we feel like we have to conform, but we don't have to conform. When I go back to black on black crime, you're not going to tell me that some of these people wanted to fight. Some of these people really wanted to get out there and be a part of a gang or whatever. The peer pressure is so much, and
Yeah.
that's something that we're going to talk about, because peer pressure is one of the greatest things amongst young people, middle-aged people, old people. Peer pressure is a lot. Peer pressure causes us to gossip, causes us to backbite, causes us to do a whole lot of things that we really shouldn't be doing.
It's true. It's very true.
Mhm.
That is very true.
And I think that everybody falls into it. You know, when you have, you can be, whether you're on your job or in church or wherever you're at, you can have that successful person, or you could just have a, how many times I know females are definitely guilty of it. You know, you can see a nice looking a person walk in and we ready to fight that person because they just look good. You know,
and we try to think for them.
Just because her hair is straight and her eyelashes is not hanging off. So we
See, they think they all that.
Right.
I tell people all the time.
That. And you know, and no, it's not all females, but there are females that do that, and there as well as males. There's males that they get in that ego thing. Oh, he think he this, he think he that. And that's what we're talking about. That's where the tension comes in. And that's where now the kids want to fight. The grown people want to fight. Why would the 57-year-old want to fight? What's your issue that you want to fight?
Exactly.
Because I don't ever feel like I want to fight somebody. I'm too old to fight. But what I do what you need to find out is, why can't you use your words correctly to say, if you don't like something, hey, I really didn't like what you did.
But you know what? That could also be a good point of why people are not taught to communicate. We're taught to yell. How are you going to communicate if everybody yelling? So if that's all you know, then that's all you're gonna know till you die, is just yelling and fussing. You don't know how to have a decent conversation and sit down and take the other person's point of view, even if you don't agree with it. You know, you be wanting to get angry because they don't see it like you see it, because you don't know how to talk to this person or receive.
Well, I think that too, it's knowing your environment, it's knowing the personalities that you work with. A lot of times in the workforce, we put the wrong people together, and it can really be a bad blend. You know, it can be, just because you're a family don't mean that it's like when you look at siblings, you can have a sibling that you just don't get along with. It's a bad blend. You know, we think that because we're family, we got to get along with everybody. We're not going to get along with everybody. There may be a cousin that you don't like. There may be a sister you don't like. It doesn't mean I always say this. I can love you to the ends of the earth, but that don't mean that I have to like you. May not like you. And that means that we may not get along and we may not be close. That could be mother, child, that could be sister, brother, that could be anybody. We're trying to work something that just doesn't work. And so this is where we start fighting and we'll start beefing, because it's like, I'm trying to make something work and our personalities are clashing. You got to learn the personality of the person that you with, because everybody's personality you're not going to get along with.
That is so true. So true.
Amen. And just go with the people that you can go with, and don't worry about who you can't. So,
well,
it's a more stress-free life.
This has been an interesting topic. We've been talking about Black on Black crime. You know, why can't we all just get along? And it's for many reasons, but our time is up. It is 7:02. Dr. Isaac, what's your final words to our viewers?
That you have to change your environment to change your elevation.
I like that.
That's good.
Pass AT?
My thing is, if you are focused on what you're doing and reaching out to people of like mind, you're not really focused on people who are not. So I had an incident, a revelation this week. If you keep your head up and you focus on what God has had for you, and you're reaching out, the people who are reaching out to you will find you, because you're reaching out and you get your head up. You're not going to be fighting everybody. You're not going to be going through changes with people who are not on your level, or not trying to be on your level, or trying to grow with you in that area. And so it brings more peace of mind, and you're not worried about the people who are not doing what they're supposed to do, or are in conflict with you. You're focused on yourself, and you're focused on other people who are focused on you as well, and go from there.
That's good.
Dr. Bennett?
Change your way of thinking so you can stop living those bad life experiences.
That's good. I think that mine is to the level that you love yourself, that's how you're gonna love other people. So if you love you, then it starts with you. That's how
Amen.
you gonna love other people because you can't love people if you don't love yourself.
Amen.
So, well, we want to thank all of our viewers for coming on the show today. We thank you, Devola, for all of your comments and all. Feel free after the show is over to make comments on the show. But it's time to say goodbye. I'm glad we had what Carol Burnett said. I'm so glad we had this time together. That was a good show back in the day. We didn't have a goodbye song, did we? When we was on our black shows. We gotta come up with a good
It's a
goodbye.
different world.
Yes, it's a different
Living
world.
single.
Yes.
Living
But until
single.
next week, we meet every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. We are breaking the silence, and we want you to always remember that you have a voice. Until next week at 6 o'clock every Tuesday, we'll see you on the dot. Bye.
Bye.
Y'all take care.
Or
Bye.
coffee. What's truck stop coffee? Thank you, Sister Beverly. Oh, they didn't watch enough Cosby's.
Oh my God.